How does an American artist forged in the discipline of a French atelier under the tutelage of Léon Bonnat respond to the gentle quietude of the French countryside? What unfolds when an American sensibility, clear-eyed and unembellished, encounters the sincerity and earthy grace of rural French life? In the paintings of Charles Sprague Pearce, we glimpse a compelling answer. These questions take form in unhurried compositions where technical precision meets robust, thoughtful observation. When nature serves as both subject and guide, and sound technique is innate, where the artist is free to observe with clarity and render with precision. Such was the approach of Charles Sprague Pearce, an American expatriate who found enduring inspiration in the quiet romance of the French countryside. Born in Boston in 1851, Charles Sprague Pearce joined the wave of American expatriates who sought serious artistic training in Europe. By 1882 he had settled in Paris and studied under Léon Bonnat, as did contemporaries like John Singer Sargent and Thomas Eakins. 2 years later, Pearce purchased a farm in Auvers-sur-Oise, a rural town northwest of Paris long favoured by artists. While many had passed through the region, Daubigny, Corot, Daumier, and Pissarro, Pearce's move was different in intent. It placed him within the French naturalist movement, aligning him with artists like Jules Breton and Bastien Lepage, each known for their close study of rural life. In Auvers, Pearce began his own quiet, deliberate observation of nature. Imagine a sleepy village nestled along the Oise River, just a short train ride from bustling Paris, but a world apart in mood. The rhythm of life is slow and rural. Farmers tending to fields, children darting between thatched cottages, and the occasional horse-drawn cart. The village is a patchwork of stone houses with mossy roofs, overgrown gardens, and narrow paths winding through wheat fields and orchards. The surrounding countryside is all golden light and gentle hills, framed by tall poplars and the glinting river. You'd hear church bells from the 12th century Église Notre-Dame d'Auvers. Not surprisingly, artists had begun trickling in by then, drawn by the picturesque scenery and the special quality of the light, clear and sharp, not unlike Giverny was for Monet, making colours pop. Charles-François d'Aubigny had already lived there, and word had spread among the landscape artists. By 1890 the village already had a certain atmosphère artistique. Locals likely viewed the painters with curiosity, if not a touch of amusement. It was a place that felt untouched, a little poetic even in its simplicity. If you squint, you can almost see the brushstrokes of a future painting in every field and rooftop. Pearce had found his muse. In quite another vein, Pearce's ability to shift between the intimate, pastoral scenes and the more dramatic, spiritually intense themes like the decapitation of St. John the Baptist, lamentations over the death of the firstborn of Egypt, or his monumental work on St. Genevieve, shows his range as an artist, but more importantly, it reveals how consistent his ideals remained across subject matter. Even in his dramatic or religious compositions, Pearce maintained that highly polished academic style, precise draftsmanship, luminous colour and balanced composition that grounded even the most emotional scenes in a sense of calm and order. What's compelling is how he used that style not to distance the viewer, but to elevate the narrative, to present suffering, sanctity, or spiritual reflection not as chaotic or grotesque, but as noble, human, and real. Take the story of St. Genevieve, for example. In his depiction, she isn't some distant saint bathed in heavenly light, but a contemplative, almost fragile young woman, as the legend goes, around the year 420 A.D. in the small village of Nanterre, just outside what was then the Gallo-Roman city of Lutetia, today's Paris. She was born into a relatively well-off family. When the Christian bishop St. Germanus of Auxerre passed through the region, he is said to have singled her out from the crowd and foretold her future sanctity. Geneviève took a vow of chastity and began what we might call an urban monastic life. She dedicates herself to prayer, fasting, and acts of charity. She was a mystic, a counselor, and an extraordinary combination of spiritual charisma and hands-on leadership. Then came the year 451 AD, when the infamous Attila the Hun threatened the very gates of Paris. Panic overtook the city. People prepared to flee. But Geneviève stood firm. According to tradition, she rallied the people not with weapons, but with prayer. "Let the men flee if they wish," she said. "We women will pray to God for mercy." And what happened? Attila changed course, bypassing Paris entirely and attacking Orléans instead. Whether you believe in divine intervention or not, what matters is this. Geneviève gave her people courage. She transformed fear into faith, and Pearce paid homage to her bravery. As the contemporary critic Theodore Child noted, the accomplishments of Pearce's rural subjects like A Shepherdess or Souvenir of Picardy proved him to be definitively amongst the most successful painters of rustic landscape and figure subjects, treated with all the technical skill, close observation, and simple handling which the modern French school demands, but at the same time with a point of sentiment dominating the general realism. Pearce lived in France for some 30 years. He gained fame as a painter of peasants and fisherfolk, where he painted in a glassed-in extension of his studio, taking in the wheat fields stretching to the horizon line and posing models from the village to capture his vision of the French peasant, especially shepherdesses, but with a sojourn to the Middle East for health and happily discovering a whole new group of subjects to paint, like his Arab jeweller of 1882. He became a member of the Paris Society of American Painters, of the National Institute of Arts and Letters, and of the Salmagundi Club in New York. In the washing day painting, we feel the activity is as genuine as it would be in real life. He captures the activities and energy that one would suspect for the duties at hand, and each prop with the many thoughtfully arranged diagonals supports the energy of the pastoral scene. Pearce often painted his wife, as is often the case with painters, sometimes in costume or at times a certain pose that is suggested to put into a canvas, or perhaps simply for convenience and chatting away while the picture is developing. Charles married Antonia in 1884. Antonia was French and had been one of his art students before their marriage, and the couple then settled in Auvers-sur-Oise, a suburb of Paris, where they lived for the remainder of Pearce's life. It is noted that Charles Sprague Pearce was a grandson of Charles Sprague, the banker poet of Boston. In 1920, following Pearce's death in 1914, his widow donated a self-portrait of her husband to the National Academy of Design in New York. The self-portrait is an oil on canvas, measuring some 32 by 25 inches, and signed in the lower left corner with the inscription, Charles Sprague Pearce, à l'Académie de New York, 1920, credited as a gift from the artist's widow in 1920. Like many artists of his time, Pearce often used models to embody idealized or symbolic figures, especially in his allegorical and genre scenes, as in Prelude, which shows a woman with a contemplative, almost mystical presence seated with a stringed instrument. It's possible the model held personal significance to Pearce, as he used similar types. In his long-running series of Workers in the Fields, Charles Pearce reveals not only his deep interest in the human figure, but also his ongoing exploration of gesture, posture, and the quiet dignity of labor. Each piece reflects his unmistakable sense of style, his confident technique, his masterful drawing, and his sensitive handling of mood and atmosphere. Pearce often spoke about the importance of being close to nature, not just as a subject, but as a source of daily inspiration. The glass addition he designed for his studio wasn't just a structural choice, it was a statement of intent. "I need to see the sky," he once said, "even when I'm not painting it." From this space, he could watch storms roll in, or light shift across a field, all while remaining immersed in his work. On rainy days, when the tones turned soft and the edges blurred, he found beauty in the quiet, and continued painting uninterrupted, warmed by the shelter of the space he so carefully crafted for himself. Charles Sprague Pearce made great strides toward developing his unique vision, and the region he chose became part of that identity, just as Jules Breton was bound to Courrières, Bastien Lepage to Damvilliers, and Dagnon Bouverie to the Franche-Comté. Pearce, too, began his earnest study of nature and rural life through close observation, allowing the land and its tempos to shape his artistic language. Like Breton, who once said, "I was born in the fields, and it is in the fields that I learned to see," Pearce grounded his work in the everyday poetry of labour and landscape. His deep connection to place was not incidental, it was essential. In the peaceful isolation of his chosen region, Pearce carved out a space where his vision could mature without distraction. Bastien Lepage, whose sensitivity to natural light and subtle gesture earned him wide acclaim, believed in painting directly from life. "I want to make the real so real that it shall be more real than reality," he said, and Pearce, in his own quiet way, echoed that pursuit. He created a studio environment that blurred the line between indoors and out, with his now iconic glass addition, allowing him to remain immersed in the changing weather and light without interruption. Similarly, Dagnon Bouverie, known for his precision and contemplative subjects, once noted, "To be in nature is to be at work. One must study it constantly, not copy it, but converse with it." Pearce understood this implicitly. His studio was not a retreat from nature, but a listening post, where the fog on a morning field, or the silver-grey palette of a rainy afternoon, became part of his visual vocabulary. In Pearce's work we see not just refined technique, but a life of attentive looking. He didn't simply depict the world, he belonged to it, and his paintings invite us to do the same. As we have stepped into the artistic world of Charles Sprague Pearce, we are immediately struck by the clarity of vision and the meticulous training that guided his hand. Having matured in the rigorous ateliers of Paris, Pearce developed a style that was both technically assured and deeply poetic. His brushwork bears the hallmark of academic excellence, yet it is refined by a heartfelt reverence for the quiet rhythms of life. Pearce devoted himself wholeheartedly to the natural world, capturing its nuances with a tenderness that transcends mere observation. Whether in the gentle sway of sun-drenched wheat fields or the hushed stillness of a contemplative figure of the fields, his works invite us into a space of quiet reflection. Within the walls of his studio, far from the noise of modernity, Pearce cultivated a serene vision, one steeped in knowledge, discipline, and deep emotional resonance. And it is this joy, so gracefully embedded in each canvas, that he bequeaths the viewers, becoming recipients of that enduring spirit. His legacy passed not through grand gestures, but through the carefully wrought dignity of a life devoted to art. So with that, we trust you enjoyed this look at a rare talent who went about his business with careful thought and elegance of style, and combining the very best of real solid technique. And if you will, remember to subscribe and add a like, as it helps the channel. Thank you to all that have subscribed already. We look forward to seeing you next time. So for now, thank you and bye for now.